Jen's the mother of 2 teens. Her online shopping cart is always full of amps and auxiliary cables, so you might think she's funding her kid's garage band. But what you don't know is she's actually the one shredding on stage. With TransUnion's 360-degree view of consumer identity, you can get a clear picture of your marketing audience and reach people like Jen with messages that are more headbanger, less homebody. See how TransUnion is bringing clarity to marketing chaos through deeper insights, smarter reach, and precise measurement at transunion.com/clarity.
Is it time to reimagine your future? The right business skills may make a difference in your career. At Capella University, we offer a relevant education that's designed to focus on what you need to know in the business world. We'll teach professional skills to help you pursue your goals, like business management, strategic planning, and effective communication. And you can apply these skills right away. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
A brand is the most valuable thing you can create. And don't be afraid to be different. Sometimes we are thinking about how can we do it faster or better or more. And those can be places to think about. But what about being different? Being different is not expensive.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. I feel like we've already recorded an episode without having pushed record. Aurora Winter is here with us today, and I'm so thrilled, first of all, that you're joining me on the podcast and that we're able to dive into your story, what makes you you, and all of the wonderful things that you've put into the world, whether in the world of film and television, grief coaching and counseling, writing books of all sorts, and helping other people learn how to express words and get their message out to the right audience at the right time. So thank you.
Oh, I love being on the show with you, and I love to help people with neuroscience of communication and with pivoting. So I don't know where we're going to go, but we have a lot we could cover.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about it. You are a dual citizen, United States and Canada. Where did you grow up, and how did that influence some of your decisions?
I was actually born in the States when my parents were studying at Iowa State University. I come from an academic background like you. My dad was a dean of a university eventually. And I just happened to be, of the 3 kids, the one that was born when they happened to be in the United States. But I went blissfully off back to Canada when I was 6 months old. And it didn't really factor into my life until fast forward, I was working in film and television in Toronto as the director of development for Canada's largest film and television and production company at that time, overseeing $1.5 million worth of screenwriting, just the scripts, and 250 hours of programming. So that was way cool. And then all roads lead to Hollywood if you're in the film business. So I went to the American Embassy to see what would I have to do if I wanted to move to Los Angeles, where I am now. And they're like, well, just come back in 3 days and we'll have your passport ready for you. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, you're an American citizen, didn't you know? I'm like, yeah, no. That was how naive I was in my early 30s. So, of course, now I'm in Los Angeles. But I actually had culture shock moving to LA at first, because you think living in Canada that it's the same. But as you may know from visiting UBC earlier this year, there are subtle differences between Canadian and American culture. Yeah. And what I really appreciate about Americans is they're very like, let's get this going. We can do anything. Let's do it now. Let's go big or go home. Whereas Canadians tend to be a little more cautious, a little more conservative. And as a diehard entrepreneur, that American, we can do it really appeals to me.
Yeah. So you have worked for others, and you have also had a very vast entrepreneurship journey. What's been the push-pull between those two? Because I know that we were speaking about my push-pull of, I need to get a job. And then, wait, no, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. But then somehow I get pulled back in and out.
Yeah. I started my first business when I was in my 20s with the man who later became my husband. And basically, we were so madly in love, we couldn't stand working at our respective jobs. We had to be together. And so we started, the only business I could figure out we could start with no money was renting boats that were owned by other people and taking a management fee. So we started that business, and that became fairly successful for a little rental company. And then I saw that they were selling houses and apartments as tax shelters in Canada. So I asked the $1 million question. I wonder if we could do this with yachts. And after spending $20,000 with lawyers and accountants, the answer was yes, we could. And so then we offered boats as tax shelter investments, really. Or honestly, people wanted to buy a boat. They just wanted an excuse to rationalize it. And we grew to be the largest yacht dealership in Western Canada. And we doubled our profit margins. So from 12% to 24%. And company grew into a multi-million-dollar company. So what I want to point out about that is if you see something happening in another industry, maybe it can also apply to yours. So I love cross-pollinating different industries. And also, we always want to be I believe that entrepreneurs solve problems at a profit. So anytime you see a problem, can you solve it? Because if you can, and you can offer that solution to people, who knows? Maybe you can double your profit margins too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I went on to raise $5 million and started a film and television production company after working in the film business. And I'm an award-winning screenwriter, so I've written some screenplays. I've written 10 books. So I have this passion for communication. But in all the different businesses that I've started, I see that is the common thread. It's actually communicating with passion about solving problems for others.
Yeah, clearly, because you have had, going from boats to yachts, film, production, writing, somebody might not see the connection points. So pulling out the communication aspect, the problem-solving aspect. And I know you're also very passionate about the neuroscience of communication, which is something that's so vitally important, but not something people often think about first and foremost.
Yeah, I'm basically a communication nerd. So when I took my MBA in 2015, there was a minor. It was a general MBA with focus on business, of course, and leadership, but also on neuroscience. And I just love to understand more deeply how the brain actually receives communication, because most people don't really understand that the brain receives communication a certain way. So if you can speak in that way, it will so help people receive what you're up to. And to oversimplify, because this is not a PhD level course and we only have half an hour. Basically, there's 3 steps with communication. You want to first overcome the resistance of the croc brain, or the ancient reptilian brain, which is always looking for, is this dangerous? Because if it is dangerous, I'm not going to let down the drawbridge. You imagine that you want to communicate with the king and queen and they're in the castle, and you gallop up on your horse and you want the drawbridge to come down. All right. So that's the first, and then there's crocodiles in the moat. That can help you remember it. So you don't want to be boring. You don't want to be like every other messenger that they've had this past week. You can be a little bit scary, but not so scary that you're attacking and they throw their spears at you instead, or arrows. So the croc brain is basically, really quickly, what is this about? So an example would be the title of one of my books, Turn Words into Wealth, or my fantasy series, Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse. That's the category that we're talking about. If you're interested in fantasy, you go, oh, tell me more. If you're not, you're like, next. And that's fine. Totally fine. Or other examples of croc brain messages would be like the 4-hour work week, which is a really great title. It's like, what? Is it busts the myth that we need 40 hours of a work week? Or I like the movie title, Fatal Attraction. What? Those kind of like those, there's so much tension between those words. So that's croc brain. The second thing, so you can do that quickly, much more quickly than I described it, because just a couple of words. The second step is around the midbrain, the social brain. So that's more than one part of the brain, but never mind the neuroscience of it. This is the second step, which is around social proof. Human beings have survived for millennia, as you know, not because we're the strongest or the fastest or have the sharpest claws or the sharpest teeth, but because we had a tribe, because we had a community. So we're extremely alert to status and social cues. So, for example, being on your podcast is a social cue. You think I'm worth talking to. I think you're worth talking to. And so that already appeases the part of the brain that wants to know who else thinks this is worthwhile. So again, using Turn Words into Wealth as an example, you can see it's got some awards on the cover. That's social proof. Wayne Dyer endorsed my first book. My fantasy series is won the Reader's Choice Award, Best Book for Teens. So that's social proof. You can do it very quickly, but these 2 steps should precede your download of the content you want me to have. And that download of content could be a story. It could be a statistic, but you probably don't want to go on and on because people cannot really listen with full attention for longer than 20 minutes. It's very effortful to listen. So don't take that for granted, but then you might add a little story. Here would be a little example. So very interesting. There's a book called Significant Objects, and they compared putting 100 distinct objects on eBay with a story or without a story. The same objects, and the 100 stories were written by different people, and they added meaning and significance, but they didn't add value. An example would be, I loved these pot mitts. These were my grandma's pot mitts. I remember, coming home from school and she'd bake chocolate chip cookies. They smelled so good, and we'd chat about the day. Now, you don't get the grandmother and you don't get the cookies. You're still just buying the pot mitts, but significance has been added. So can you guess whether the story helped the items sell for more and how much more they sold for? Do you want to hazard a guess?
I don't like guessing, but yes. I mean, I imagine the answer is yes, they sold for more. And I will just throw out 3 times more.
Most people think like 2 or 3 times, but actually 27 times more. Wow. 27 times more. Like, wow, right? And so I share this story to help everybody realize you might be leaving so much money on the table by not focusing on your story, or you have more than one story, and practicing the story and sharing the story. You could double your business, triple your business, or more by changing nothing except how you talk about it. So that example, that last little chunk, that was the cerebral cortex, where we usually like to start. But it does help if you do it in those 3 steps. First appealing to the croc brain, then the midbrain, and then a little chunk of a story that emphasizes your point for the cerebral cortex. And then you start again. But you want it to be a conversation. So check in with the other person, where they're at and what they want to hear more about.
As a business owner myself, I can tell you that finding the right people to hire is absolutely brutal. You post a job, get flooded with hundreds of resumes, but somehow still can't find anyone with the actual skills you need. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you fast. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/work. Here's what makes ZipRecruiter different. Their smart technology actually identifies the top talent for your specific roles super quickly. The moment you post your job, their matching system starts showing you qualified candidates immediately. Plus, you can reach out to your favorite candidates right away using their pre-written invite to apply messages. No more waiting around, hoping someone will notice your post. Ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/work. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/work. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Yeah, and that's, in a world where we have this mix of technology. Some people are embracing it. Some people are scared of it. We have a world where we hear that people's attention spans are shorter. So they're looking at how do they turn everything into short podcasts or video content or 6 to 8 second pieces of content, short movies. And then we have books. And I think books have I don't want to say even more value because I've always been a family of readers, but the weight, right? The heft of taking the time and intentionality to share a story, share a journey, share what you've learned to help other people through storytelling, whether that is fictional or non-fictional. There's something so magical about that.
I love books. I'm with you.
Yeah. I feel like I'm hoping people hold on to that, right?
Yeah.
As we get more and more into this world of like trying to figure out how to fit short form content or how to fit things in short form.
Well, I'd like to bust the myth that people have only a 5-second attention span. That's a meme that's going around. I would suggest that what we have is we've got very good filter mechanism so that in only a few seconds, we can filter for whether or not we want to engage further. But you can tell from binge watching of Downton Abbey or whatever your favorite TV show is, people actually have a long attention span if you are talking about or entertaining them in a way that is meaningful to them. And if you do those 3 steps, first the crock brain, then the midbrain, then a little bit of content, you're going to have more likely have permission for people to watch you for half an hour or an hour. And I think storytelling is the DNA of how human beings have shared important messages throughout time. So I really wanted to bust this myth about us only having a 5-second attention span, because in trying to tighten everything, people are dropping the story. And that is not actually how the brain works. Yep. The story is what is repeatable and shareable and memorable. So as you're tightening things, don't lose your story. And I would say, I love that you and I both lean into AI. I'm super excited about what's somewhat scary, but it's also exciting what's happening in 2025. And I think people's stories are more valuable than ever. Yes, you can use AI to polish your story, but your human story and the human stories of the people whose lives you've changed are super important, more important than ever. In fact, you perhaps know Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He's all about, sharing messages. And he basically says the only thing that's going to have value in the next couple of years is your intellectual property, your brand, and your face and likeness.
Yeah. So true. Gosh, we have so many tangents we can go on. And even one of the ways that I use AI is to add another layer of vetting for my guests, because it can give me deeper insights and research into their backgrounds. I can have my agentic AI tools go out and search the internet and find other interviews and listen, and pull out things that are really important that work well with my podcast and my listeners much more quickly than I could. If I did all the research myself, I probably would do one podcast episode every couple of weeks, right? Or even for a team member to do. So there are ways to enhance our lives and enrich our lives with AI. But I really want to hear more about you moving from screenwriting and having your production company into becoming an author and helping people elevate their income and impact with books, brands, businesses, and everything they can do once they have their story out into the world.
Okay, that's great, rich area for us to explore. So the film and television production company, went on to make 8 films after we raised $5 million. But I got frustrated because my goal was always to share stories that would change lives. And I think nonfiction and fiction can both change lives. I mean, in my fantasy series, Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse, one of the it's a fun, fast-paced, entertaining, young adult fantasy, like, Shadow and Bone, or like Harry Potter meets Doctor Who. And I'm also working with the theme about censorship that really matters to me. And so for those who are willing to see the theme, there's a theme about banning books, banning talk, canceling people. The evil queen is basically cutting people's tongues out or, not letting them speak. So, and that really matters to me. And I think you can have entertainment that also inspires people to have conversations about free speech or banned books or the cancel culture without preaching. I don't tell you what to think, but I'm hoping that parents and teachers will use Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse series to talk about it. Similarly, nonfiction books can inspire. Anyway, I got frustrated that with movies, you have to raise like 10 or 20 or $100 million to get the whole thing off the ground. And so I went back to my love of books. But now, curiously, I'm coming full circle because the BBC has expressed interest in turning the fantasy series into 12 half-hour episodes on TV. So that's kind of cool. And to answer the second part of your question, I just got so frustrated seeing so many people who were up to something world-changing or something that really contributed to others or could contribute to others, and they were stalled by not having the right words. And they would get so frustrated. They'd talk in a circle, and I'm like, I really can see your heart is in this, and I can see that you're passionate about it, but I have no clue what it is that you do or how you change lives. So just by helping people, empowering them to communicate more clearly, I've helped startups go from having raised nothing to every one of them has raised 7 or 8 figures. So I really love to discover the gold in somebody's story and to help empower people like yourself, people who are already up to something, be more effective so that they can communicate I call it your $1 million message, whether that's on a podcast like you have, on a TED stage as other clients have, or perhaps through a book. So I feel like that's the best use of how this little cog in the universe can make a difference.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. So I appreciate the fact that it's not one size fits all. It's not everybody has to write a book, and then you go through this process you're really individualizing it depending on the person and the message and what would be best for them.
Exactly. One of my clients is as a nonprofit, so he's working to make a difference, delivering clean water in disaster areas. He doesn't really need a book, but his message, he definitely needs help with it because he's an engineer. So all his communication tends to be what it is, not why or who it helps or when it's going to help them. And people can make a big difference with podcasts or with videos today. But the other myth I want to bust is so many people are like, well, what do I do on social media? Which social media platform? But first, you need the message. The social media platform is just a distribution mechanism, but you need your message to be clear.
Yeah. And I think that can be really difficult for people. I know even being in marketing and PR and digital media, my social media is not something I've focused on very heavily over the last few years. When I moved back here from Houston, it was because I was making a transition, but I had to also look at my social media was much more about philanthropy in Houston, fashion in Houston, art, the things that I was doing. And that was my following. So then trying to figure out, do I want to transition this account to a business account? So I think people have to really think through what makes the most sense for each part of your audience, number one, and then what messaging are you getting out, right? And making sure it's very clear. And then, of course, the right message at the right time. So what platforms do you really need to use? And they're different. Like for podcasting, Pinterest is actually really good. So I would never have thought. And then that's something that my team and I tried, and we're like, oh, this is actually creating really interesting discoverability and subscribers. So
that actually works. I'm a big believer in quick tests, quick, inexpensive tests, see what works. But I want to circle back around to what you said about AI a minute ago, because I think so many people are like, AI is going to replace human beings. I think AI can be used to amplify our creativity. As you gave the example of researching guests, well, I use AI to be better prepared as a guest on podcasts so that I can deliver more precisely what that host may be looking for. But I also use AI. So, for example, I have a YouTube channel called Strategic Basics, which has, instead of just me talking to camera, which is what you see a lot of, which I think is boring, especially as a TV producer, about half of it is B-roll. So my son is my producer, and he adds music and he adds B-roll, and it makes it very engaging and fun. Well, that wouldn't have been possible to do 10 years ago or even 3 years ago in a cost-effective way. But now with, Midjourney and Night Cafe and other AI tools, it's actually possible to create such a higher level of production quality. And so that amplifies my creativity and his, right? So I'd love us to think of AI as a useful tool that we can leverage to do whatever we want.
Yeah, I just used it I was wanting to create a 6-strip comic just on different AI use cases, including computer vision for different industries. And so I tried probably 5 or 6 tools, and then I settled on Pixton, which isn't one that's out there, but it was really fun. And even just the free version, right? I was able to create my strips and characters and the scenes, and then change the characters around. And I think we're in that discoverability phase where we get to play with these tools and figure out what works for each project individually. And not everybody has the time, right, and intentionality to do that. But it's so much richer when you can than just saying, oh yeah, I'm having ChatGPT write content for me.
Well, I love what you're sharing because I think a lot of people think AI equals ChatGPT, but there's so many other tools. And what you'd also said is like to be more playful. I think that is something I had to coax myself into. Like, okay, we're not trying to get something done with AI. We're playing with it. We're learning. We're, exploring. And different tools are good for different things. I don't know if you like to use Notebook LM, but for me, that is super useful. So if I have trilogy of books, which might be 200,000 words, I could just upload the PDFs and say, give me a character summary, give me a plot summary of book 1, book 2, book 3. And then it doesn't invent things, which I like, and it just sticks to the facts. So different tools for different projects.
That's so funny. I'm working with a former Zen monk who I've been training under for the last couple of years. And we have been recording a podcast that I'm going to release soon. But we also are taking all of this older material and refreshing it, including a couple of books that he's written. And we want to insert a feminine voice. And so I uploaded one of the books, actually used Claude, but I'm going to use Notebook LM for the next phase. And just said, hey, give me a summary. Where would it be good to interject my voice? What kind of examples are you looking for that would enrich the storytelling and the constructs that we're teaching? And what's missing because of when this book was written originally and how things have changed. And those, I think, the way that you're using it and the way that I'm working with it, those are the best use cases. Those are where it's actually an enhancement and it's a thought partner. It's not a replacement.
Exactly right. So for one of my clients, her book just came out recently. It's called The Vitality Solution. I used Notebook LM, uploaded the book, and you can actually have like a podcast-like conversation based upon the book. So I gave her just as a bonus, here's like a 20-minute podcast conversation with a male and female host talking about your book. I'm like, wow, she put that on her website. And, later I helped her get booked on podcast herself, but it can be so quick, right? That's the other great thing.
So what are some of the things that you're looking forward to in the next phase of technology, your show, your work?
At Capella University, learning the right skills could make a difference. That's why our business programs teach you relevant skills you can take from the course room to the workplace. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
I'm actually super excited about the ability to basically make feature films on a shoestring budget. So with Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse, there's 3 books right now, but I would love to do the same thing that we're doing in Strategic Basics, to have each chapter as an audio that has got video enhancements and put that on YouTube, because I think people do love the visual, and you don't have to spend $20 million on a feature film. What if it could be done at an affordable amount that the ads or the book sales would basically cover it? And I think that could be possible. Anyway, I'm going to give it a shot.
It is possible, and I have a resource for you.
Okay, great.
So, So as we said before we jumped on, there's so much. We could spend hours just talking without even remembering to push record. And I'm really excited about our follow-up conversations. So what do you think is the number one thing people need to do right now if they're trying to grow their business and they're trying to figure out how to put the right communication together? And do they need to get booked as speaking engagements or podcasts or other methods, which, I obviously haven't been in the PR world. I think podcasting is the most effective method at this point. If you're looking at that, the PR, the thought leadership, amplification, but books, stages.
I think that podcasts are really great. So this is a very good question. And I want to answer quickly that there's basically 3 major search engines that businesses are well served to leverage. The second one is YouTube. So YouTube is the number 2 search engine. So I think that's why I have Strategic Basics on YouTube, because I'm like, oh, okay, YouTube. And that's why I have my face on YouTube, because, oh God, it's a real person. Very good. The third search engine is actually Amazon. So if you have the right book with the right title and the right subtitle, it's very clear about what problem you solve, you can get clients from around the world. When you have a book on Amazon, you will also usually have reviews on Goodreads, which brings us to the number one search engine, which is now changing from SEO to GEO. But ChatGPT and other LLMs search Amazon, they search YouTube, they search Goodreads. So in order to optimize the top 3 search engines, I think the trifecta is have a book on Amazon, have a show on YouTube, or have a podcast, and then be sure to populate the things that the LLM search, such as Goodreads, so that you come up. Like, I was stunned to have prospects come to me who found out about me from ChatGPT. I'm like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then in order to answer the question about the specific business owner who's listening to this, I would step back to say, okay, where is the leverage point? Because after COVID hit, I did the 80-20 rule to my business. And I think it's always good to review the 80-20 rule. So what are the 20% of clients that are bringing you 80% of the revenue? And then even do it again. I did it again. I'm like, what are the 4% of clients who are bringing me the bulk of the revenue? Okay, so I think we can get so scattered serving everybody or being on every social media platform.
Yeah.
So I recommend, well, this is what I'm doing myself. It may or may not fit every single business, but I do free or very expensive. So I don't have anything in between, because I realize the 4% of clients who bring me the bulk of my revenue want personal, VIP, one-on-one, top level service. Yeah. And then the level below that is basically free. It's books or videos or podcasts. So I'm here serving everybody who's listening for free. So if people can think about that 80-20 rule for their business, and then think about, what do you love to do? What are you really, really good at and still love to do?
Yeah.
And then who is that worth the most to? So first I start with strategy. That's why it's called Strategic Basics. I'm very strategic. So once you've got those things clear, then I would recommend making a very specific targeted marketing strategy that would work for those people. So in my example, people usually find me by reading my book on Amazon, spending like $20 on a book. They read the book. They're like, oh my gosh, I would love Aurora's help. They book a free business breakthrough call with me. And then if I can help them, I do, and they become clients. Or they find me from hearing me on podcasts. That's basically all the marketing that I do. Nice. Podcasts, and my YouTube channel and my books. So that is peaceful for me, because it means like I don't really fuss about Pinterest or Meta or X. I don't fuss about it, because I know what is already working and I just do more of that. What about you? What advice would you offer?
Turning the question back on me. I always, when I had my PR firm, so many clients would come to me and they had a website and they had brand colors and they had a logo and they had put themselves on every social media platform, but they hadn't taken time to really think about, maybe they knew what they wanted to do, but the brand blueprint. So I always take it back to, what is your mission, vision, what are your values, purpose statement, all of those things, so that you can be really intentional as you move through the next phase of whether it's knowing who your key stakeholders are, what messages to impart to each of them, and then figuring out what the platforms are. I do think that podcasts are the most valuable tool we have in terms of marketing and public relations at this point, because you can get content for days. We get to form this connection. Now you and I have this connection, and I have people I want to introduce you to, and we're going to follow up on some things. And I want to, see if I can bring you in to speak to my students at USC. And there's all this other little things that are happening, brain synapses, because of this meeting that wouldn't have occurred if we hadn't had this time together, even virtually. So I believe that time, that intentional time, is really important. Being on podcasts, even starting small, and then knowing where your audience lives, not feeling like you have to be beholden to every social media platform, and really just being intentional. I haven't done a LinkedIn newsletter for a while, but it's still growing. I haven't probably put one out in a month, but I keep getting new subscribers to it. And I have all these ideas for it. I just have to sit down and write it. So that serves me much better than having an email newsletter go out. I have a fairly large, I mean, not huge, but a nice sized email list too. But I've also realized a lot of those people are from different parts of my life that may or may not apply. They might not want to hear about all of the podcasts, right? Or they may not need PR services. Maybe they do need AI stuff now that I'm also creating agents and partnering with a lot of organizations. But I'd rather much put that information out to my audience on LinkedIn, which is a little bit bigger than that list, but also the right people. So yeah.
LinkedIn totally makes sense. And the other thing I'd just like to piggyback here is that so many people who don't stop to do what you just said and create the brand blueprint, they're thinking about what does everybody else do, so I'll just do the same, only a little bit different. And that is a recipe for disaster. Yeah. Because if you're just doing the same as everybody else, you don't have a brand, and the price is going to wipe out any surplus profits until you're competing with Walmart in China. So a brand is the most valuable thing you can create. And don't be afraid to be different. Sometimes we are thinking about how can we do it faster or better or more. And those can be places to think about. But what about being different? Being different is not expensive. So, for example, on Strategic Basics, the episode coming out next week, I'm talking about the value of brand and the value of art. And I stumbled across this young man. He's 25. He was profiled in the BBC. It's got 4 million views. And he doesn't own any modern clothes. He doesn't wear jeans or T-shirts or regular clothes. He dresses up in Victorian attire every day, right down to the hat, the top hat and the cane. And it's just what he loves to do. But now he's making bespoke clothing for people who also have a passion for Victorian clothing. So he's an example of being willing to be different. So I invite people to be willing to be different. So for example, other people who help people with their book marketing or help people with their $1 million message, most of them are doing Zoom calls to many people. They're competing at the, $1,000 or $5,000 price point. And I'm willing to be different. I only serve a few clients, but they personally deal with me. They don't get delegated to an intern. They're dealing with somebody who's launched 7-figure businesses, who's written 10 books, who's an award-winning screenwriter.
Yes.
So it's only a small percentage who can afford that and who want that, but I'm willing to be different. So how can you be different? I think that's a great question to ask too.
Yeah. You just gave me some things to think about. We'll talk offline.
Okay.
But this has been such a refreshing conversation. I
agree. It's lovely.
Yeah. And there's obviously so much more we can discuss, but I just love to give a little taste to the audience. And we'll bring you back on, and I think likely have you on some of the other shows that I'm working on as either as producer or as host or both. Aurora, where would you like people to go? AuroraWinter.com? Is that your single source of truth or your best source of truth?
They can go to AuroraWinter.com and you can get some free goodies there. Or if they're interested in help with getting their message out quickly or writing a book, they can go to samepagepublishing.com, because I come on the same page as my clients. So samepagepublishing.com or AuroraWinter.com, or check out Strategic Basics on YouTube if you just want a little bit more content for free.
Yeah, and we will have all of those links in the show notes. So
this was great. Thank you so much.
So fun. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it on your favorite platform. I'll be back again with another amazing guest very shortly. But do check out these resources. They're truly amazing. The amount that Aurora is willing to give to her audience. I mean, just going on your websites, getting free downloads, free gifts, including masterclass videos, the ebook, all of that. You're just giving a really big gift to those who may not be able to afford the upper echelon of working with you, but want to know how to get started on their journey so that they can aspire to that.
Oh, thank you. It's good to give stuff away and help. I want to help everybody. I only have so much time in the day, so yes. I can't help everybody one-on-one. But yes, I can give ebooks and video classes away for free, and they can get them online.
Last question. Do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, family motto?
Because your show is about branding, I wanted to share this one from Sir Richard Branson. Branding demands commitment to continual reinvention, striking chords with people to stir their emotions, and commitment to imagination. It is easy to be cynical about such things, much harder to be successful. And that's Sir Richard Branson. I had that quote in my book, Turn Words into Wealth. I thought you'd like it.
Yes, very much so. Thank you for sharing that. And again, we'll definitely have you back on and do a little refresh on what new things you've learned with AI and where we are in the world in a few months.
That's good. So much more to chat about.
Yes, amazing. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbandamplified.com.
Suffering from dry, tired, irritated eyes? Don't let dry eyes win. Use Systane Pro. It hydrates, restores, and protects dry eyes for up to 12 hours. Systane Pro. Triple action dry eye relief.
At Capella University, learning the right skills could make a difference. That's why our business programs teach you relevant skills you can take from the course room to the workplace. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.